Welcome back to this month's Teacher Training Tip. Thank you for being with us. We have had a great conversation here. I'm sure you've been blessed by it. I've been blessed by it. Talking about this important role of teachers in the church. All right, I want to get specific. We've had some great conversation. Let me get you to do this. We've got a lot of our teachers who minister to children. So we're going to, in this video, kind of get into some specifics. I think the question I probably get asked most by teachers of children is, I've got this one student that's driving me crazy. Either he talks too much, he won't sit down, all this kind of stuff. We get all these scenarios. So classroom management becomes a big question. What would you do if somebody comes to you with that question? If I've got a student I'm having difficulty with, what do you do?
Well, number one, I've never taught in any session that I haven't had somebody come up and ask me the same question. Yeah. And number two, it's an entire semester to answer that question.
There you go. You got 90 seconds.
So here we go. To shrink it up. Understand, I am not a trained special education teacher.
Okay.
So please understand, I'm coming to you from practical advice that I've experienced and have seen work. That being said, there are people out there who know more than I am. Check out the research. Yeah. But always, if you've got a kid who's just so crazy, I know we don't like to do this. Make sure we're not the problem. Are we boring the life out of them?
That's true.
I know that sounds horrible, and it doesn't mean you have to spin on your head to get their attention. Just understand, maybe you've done all the talking for too long.
That's true.
And especially with the middle ages, the middle school and older elementary, let them do some talking too, okay?
Good.
Don't do all the talking. And really in this society, even the older people, all the way up to hyphens, they don't want you doing all the talking either. So stop doing all the hard. Stop bearing the burden. They're the ones that need this information. Ask them questions. Start interacting. Right. Get them to talk some more, and you will get much better at steering the situation. Right. If you have a student with actual, maybe even diagnosed or diagnosable behavior issues, and understanding some of you come from smaller churches, it's not like you have a huge staff, but this is where youth come in. I'm a huge proponent of getting youth who are grounded in the truth to become helpers in classrooms, because you want them to eventually become teachers on their own. You're always teaching with the goal of having that student teach others. And so get someone who can shadow the little booger who is, for whatever reason, learns differently. It does not mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means they didn't learn like the other 5 or 6 children in your class, and that God made them that way. Complain to him. So get a helper who can. I had one student who was he was moderate to high functioning autistic was his diagnosis, and he would disrupt a class until we realized if you gave him something to do with his hands, he was okay. Yeah. So he had a box of blocks, and he would sit to the side and he would play with those blocks. I mean, frantically play. But every once in a while he'd speak up, and you knew he's listening to every word you said. Yeah. And the other students in the class, if you've got students throwing fits that he gets a block, then give them a block too. But because the fact of the matter is, if you walk back, especially if you walk past a younger class and everyone's sitting like this the whole time, I don't think they're well behaved. I think you're boring. And so, yes, sometimes children do need to learn to sit still, but there's way too much research. Children learn by playing. Right. So for crying out loud, if you've got a kid who wants to move around, move around. You cannot always cater to the special needs. I understand that. And that is why you have what's called a shadow, whether it's a young person or somebody who's just there, and their job is just to make sure everything stays. Sure. Now, if you've got a student, there is no diagnosable situation. They just have a case of BRAT. What you can do in that case, and this is so difficult, I would caution you to prayerfully do this. You have one student weighed out against the well-being of the rest of your students. I have absolutely taken that student to somewhere else, sat them with an adult, usually the Sunday school superintendent, and said, so-and-so's having trouble today concentrating. We got to get our class. We're learning about Jesus in our class. He or she is welcome next week. But as of right now, I think that they're going to be happier in here with you. You don't make it out toward the kid. I never want you in my class again. You're kicked out here forever, and you blah, blah, blah. Calm down. That's not the point. But the point is, I know it's horrible. You only have so much time, and if you've got one kid outweighing everybody else, at some point, you got to think it through. again, prayerfully consider that. That should always be last resort.
And a conversation with your leader to know before that situation
Yes.
ever comes up what the plan is going to be.
Communicate with the parents.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times, I remember, I'll never forget, my sister had one student who came to class, she taught 2nd or 3rd grade. She said, I thought I was going to have to tranquilize him. She said he was literally, he would pick papers up and tear them, and he would just, she said, I didn't know, she said, I was in tears. I was so angry trying to figure out what is wrong with this kid. She finds out afterwards that a massive shift in his family dynamic had happened that week. His dad had gotten remarried.
Okay.
And nobody told the teacher. And so she had this kid who did not know how to handle what he was feeling.
Sure.
And he brought it to her class. Please give them the benefit of the doubt and assume there might be something they're dealing with that you're not aware of. So, and now if it's a consistent issue, that's a little different story.
Right.
But never assume that Satan has sent the child to disrupt your class.
No.
Okay? That's most of the time Satan uses us to distract ourselves. So we can just lay off that
Handle it
quickly.
ourselves.
But like I said, do some research, find out what the problem is.
Yeah.
Sit down with the child and say, hey, what's going on? You know?
Yeah.
And by all means, get a helper if you can.
Absolutely. Very good stuff. All right, we're going to switch gears.
Okay.
So you just talked to our teachers of children. We have some pastors and church leaders who watch these videos as well. You've got the mic. I'm going to deem you the spokesperson for all teachers everywhere. If you wanted to talk to leaders, pastors, and communicate something on behalf of teachers, what would that be? You've got the floor.
Okay. Preaching, by the foolishness of preaching, are men saved. That is scripture. Okay? Also, scripture is Matthew 28:19. Go ye into all the world and teach. Mm-hmm. Both of those things are in the word. You do not get to ignore either one of those. What we've come up, what we have to understand, preaching is convincing you to buy the car. This is my really bad analogy, but it works. Preaching is telling everybody, listen, this is the car. You need this car. Here's why this car will enhance your life. Teaching is how to maintain and operate the car properly.
Okay. All right.
You have to have both. I implore you, if you are contemplating or have made the move to phase out Sunday school or teaching of any type, will you please promise me you're going to pray and fast on that for a little bit longer? Because there is, first of all, there is no time in a human being's life, no time when they cannot be and should not be being educated. They have to be taught. Even infants, there is research that strongly supports the thought, infants recognize songs while they're still in the womb. And you better believe they recognize environments. Mm-hmm. And so when you have an environment of a godly teacher, it's not babysitting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, if you're hiring out somebody to come watch from the outside to watch nursery, please stop doing that. There is an I don't have time to teach it, the session. There is a spiritual aspect you're missing out there. When you have adults, of course adults need to be taught. Of course adults, cradle to grave, education matters. I am begging all of you pastors and those of you in leadership, God has called you. Now I want you to think back over how you got where you are, who taught you, and we have no right to deny that to the next generation. The children are the church of the future. They are the church of the present. And guess what? Adults are the church of the future as well. Mm-hmm. So please understand, if they are going to be educated somewhere, they're going to find something to eat. Okay? Yeah. People are going to eat. If you're not feeding them what they need, they're going to get garbage somewhere else. Yeah. So again, an entire session on this, how important education in the church is. There is not 1 second of a day they don't need to know about Jesus. And that is knowing how to use him in their finances, in their relationships, in their parenting, in their just day-to-day living. That never ceases to be a need. So it never ceases to be, it's never unnecessary. When you find someone who knows everything, then you don't need to educate them. But I haven't found them yet.
We haven't met them. All right, this has been great. I wanna wrap up this series with a final question. It's pretty open-ended, but we've got some wonderful teachers who've been watching this and sticking with this. You've got one last opportunity to say what you want to say to these teachers. What's your one final thing to put a bow on all this to share with our teachers?
Okay, you are not where you are by an accident. And I know it feels like this is stuff I said earlier, but I can't help it. You are not there by an accident, whether it was the call of your pastor, whether you just felt guilty, nobody was there to teach a class. If you are in a classroom connecting people to God, you are exactly where you should be. It doesn't mean it's forever, and maybe you feel like you could do other things better, but God called you for such a time as this. Esther was never designed to be a queen. She was just a girl. But God put her where he needed her for such a time, and that is exactly where you are. Don't you for 1 second fall victim to the lie that you are not where you're supposed to be, or to the lie that you are inadequate. God is enough, therefore you're enough. When you have his Spirit in you, you can do all things through Christ. Relax, understanding you are making an eternal difference in the lives of the people who sit in front of you. There are going to be people in heaven because of you or because of the people you taught. What you do matters. It is not an accident where you are right now. And so accepting the challenge that God trusts you with his word and his kids, when you accept that information and understand, I am called here, the rest is God's problem. He's the one that will give you the strength. He's the one that will give you the wisdom. He's the one that will give you the words to say. And he'll come through for you every time.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely. I hope you're encouraged by this and excited by this like I am. We've got this wonderful privilege to share his word with his people. What a wonderful opportunity. Thanks for being with us. This has been a great series.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it. Come back for more teacher training videos in the future.